down below so that I've got a recording of me or of the slides, but that's where we are. Okay, so I'm going back to share, and I'm just going to show you the agenda today is, as I said, a quick run round Zoom, 3 ideas from me, a discussion with some questions, and then top tips. If anything occurs to you, if there's any questions that occur to you as we're going along, please stick them in the box. And the first person to ask me a sensible question, not one like, why do I support Arsenal, I'll send a PDF of the book I wrote a few years ago about presenting, with the real tips on presenting. And my first 3 ideas today, guys, are number 1, the power of 3. If you watch the presentations, and I know there's one of them going on now, when Boris was running it, who is a pretty professional presenter, whether you like him or not, there were 3 people there. And of course, he used authority. He used the power of authority, which comes from the work of Robert Cialdini. It's number 3 in his traits of authority in the 6 unconscious influences. He had the chief medical officer on one side of him, and of course he had the chief scientific officer on the other. And his mantra, which was a bit like "Get Brexit Done," 3 words, his mantra is also in 3s, as you will have already spotted. So using the power of 3 in any presentation, any pitch, any ideas, anything you want to get through to your friends or to your kids or whatever it is, can be really powerful. And if you watch the really professional presenters, they will perhaps go 1, 2, and 3. So they might even use their fingers. And the other thing is, if you're really in doubt, and this really works, trust me, if you don't know what the 3rd point is, you will by the time you've done 1, 2, and 3. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you guys for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's great to connect over Zoom in these days of isolation. Number 2, it's good to share some energy both ways. And 3, if one person takes one idea away and puts it into practice, it makes a massive difference. I've achieved my objectives of putting this in my newsletter and getting to learn Zoom. So that shows how you could use the power of 3 in any way. When I'm teaching presentation skills or teaching negotiation skills even, I'm saying to people, make sure you put the points in 3s, not 5s, not 4s, not 2s. It has a rhythm. In psychology, there's something called the power of 3 in the unconscious mind, and it just has that rhythm. Now, looking at all the people that are on this call, I expect you all know that, but I just like to remind people, because one of my favorite mantras is most people know what to do, but then under pressure, they don't actually do what they know. So back to slide sharing again. Here we go. And the second point, my idea for you, is mind mapping. I am a consummate mind mapper, as you guys, as some of you know. That's my mind map on body language. That's my mind map from today. I just want to see if you can see it. I couldn't see that then, so I've come back to there. That's my mind mapping, my mind map from today, which I did just now. There's 3 benefits to mind mapping. Number 1, it helps the recall. It's phenomenal for recall. Number 2, it gets all the stuff flying around in your head out onto paper. And psychologically, when you get things onto paper, it means you feel less overwhelmed. Now, I can never understand why people don't keep lists, because by putting lists on paper, it gets things into your unconscious mind. And the 3rd thing is, it goes around the way the clock goes around, and I think that's what helps you remember it even better. Mind mapping is a right brain skill, so the brain is a bit like that. It's the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain, with the corpus callosum in between, which is allegedly 200 miles of wiring. And the left side of the brain is the logical side. The right side of the brain is the emotional side. These gets ideas, what Edison and Einstein and people like that that use. So getting the right brain working with a mind map is a great way of recalling things, and also then under a pressure stress situation, it's a great way of also remembering things. So that's my mind map on body language. And here's a little quiz for you: the left and right brain conflict. So look at the chart and say the color, not the word. Difficult, isn't it? Because the right brain tries to say the color, but your left brain insists on reading the word. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the left brain is more likely to be in control, more likely to want us to make us want to look at spreadsheets rather than look at the body language or anything logical. And therefore, we really do need to be careful we don't let the left brain take over the right brain. And the tireder we get, ladies and gentlemen, the more tired we get, the more the left brain takes over from the right brain, which is why it's a good idea to stop and have breaks, as we talked about last week. Have a break every 55 minutes for a 5-minute stretch, cup of tea, cup of coffee, or whatever it is that that would be useful. Just coming out of there, so I can see the stop share and see what's happening. Now I can look at no questions so far then, apart from the fact that somebody has the choir in the evening on Thursday and everybody's fine with all times. Here's a question then, guys. How are you finding working from home? I know some of you work from home anyway, but how are those of you who don't normally work from home find it? Gentleman with the baseball cap on is what, are you waving at me, or you're saying it's fine? That's James Whitehurst there. Where are you, James? I'm just going to try and unmute you. I'm getting clever at this. Where are you, James?
Hi, Derek. I'm down in Bournemouth. So I wasn't waving. I was just, I've got you on my phone. So I was chatting on the phone, trying to access the chat.
Okay.
But anyway, hi, hello.
You were one of those people on the beach the week before last that got us all into trouble, were you?
Yeah, guilty. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, it was crazy actually. We went for a drive out last Sunday, and couldn't believe how many people were out on the beach. The car parks were full. Like, it's madness. So
Boris had to close it all down at that point. Remind me, James, what do you do? It looks like you've got a real office there, like me.
This is it's my spare room. It's been converted to an office because I'm full-time working from home. I'm on NatWest.
Oh, you work for NatWest?
So I work in corporate banking in NatWest.
I imagine you're very busy at the moment with these government guarantee loan schemes or whatever.
Yeah, the C-bills. Yeah, very busy.
What's it called?
Coronavirus business interruption loan scheme.
Oh, okay. It's already got some.
Yeah. Of course, we've got a.
Yeah.
You know, banking, Derek. Absolutely everything has an abbreviation.
Banking too well. A friend of mine, I spoke to him last week. I WhatsApped him, and he said he was working till 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 nights running. But so he's not on here. I can see that. Guys, what have you found the most challenging? What have you found the most challenging working from home?
Shopping.
Sorry?
Shopping.
Yeah, no. Shopping. Yeah, I can see that.
No, not shopping.
Not
stopping.
Stopping working.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a workaholic like me, are you?
No, it gets too late and you're still working.
Yeah. I've got a question from John Reed to everyone. So and the question is, I'm used to doing some working at home, but communicating all the time with all our teams using various video conferencing. This is taking up a lot more time than I'd anticipated. Technology is working well, but communicating all day like this can be surprisingly tiring. Interesting, John. I was talking to a guy called Graham Jones, who's a really close friend of mine. We run the Top Masterclass together twice a year, and he's taken a full-time job at Buckingham University, and they are finding it's taking 4 times longer to have a meeting about what they're going to write, because they're trying to put all their courses online at the moment as fast as they possibly can, because the students have all disappeared all over the world. And he's saying he's so short of time because these virtual meetings are taking a long time. Paul, you've got...
Yeah, I think there's a lot of managing those meetings, and just timing them and fitting things in between them is quite challenging.
Yeah, no. And tiring as well.
Mm.
I wonder if it's working at home that's tiring, because you're not also getting the 3-dimensional energy back from other people. I don't know. Paul Toombs, can I bring you in here? You've been, you're writing some courses as well, aren't you, and doing some work for universities. How have you found it?
30 years, so it's not really much of a problem.
Step-by-step action plan is aimed to slow the spread of the virus. So if you
Was I unmuted when I spoke?
You were unmuted. You were muted for a minute. So can you reply to that question for us? Thanks.
I've been working from home for 30 years, so for me, one would think it's quite normal, but it's not normal, because I don't have any face-to-face work, and most of my work is face-to-face. Working from home, this happens to be in my office, so I don't have commutes and so on. But having meetings all the while on the laptop is quite a strain. And I even found it before. I do interviews, research interviews on the internet using Zoom, and they're 3-hour interviews, and I can tell you, but at the end of 3 hours, I'm exhausted.
Wow.
And I need to take a break. I need to get outside, get some fresh air, get some physical activity.
That's one of the things that's coming across, isn't it? Even from the deputy health minister, that whilst we're not allowed to go outside, we really do need some exercise all the time to keep the body going.
I had to go for 2 hours.
And the brain going as well. On my podcast channel, there's I put it in the newsletter. You may have seen it. There's an interview which is also on my YouTube channel with Alison Gross, who's a physiotherapist. In fact, she's put my back in shape for the last 30 years from playing too much hockey. But it talks about the stretching exercises we need to do, and to be very careful about text neck, which is doing this, and I suffer from it quite a bit, where you're sort of hunching over the phone, you're concentrating, your shoulders are up, and what happens is you start getting a spasm in your neck, and it happens to quite a lot of people, and it really does need stretching out quite often. I've got it now just from doing that. So any other tips, guys, from Paul?
The other thing is, I found I started getting that neck when I used my laptop. I don't have a desktop, I only have a laptop.
Right.
And I was always doing that. And what I've done is I've just got a pile of books and lifted my laptop, I guess, 10 centimeters off the table.
Like that? Yep.
So it's more square. And I found that's helped quite a bit.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Can't type very well on it, but for calls, it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, thanks.
Keyboard.
What was that? I don't know. I'm seeing John, Mr. and Mrs. Vine there with "I Love You" in the background at the moment. I don't know how that's come up, but somebody's asked me to repeat a book that I mentioned about the power of 3. Well, I'm not allowed to plug my own books, but I will. That was the book I wrote, but I actually just wrote a sentence in it about the power of 3 and the psychology of the power of 3. When you're pitching, right, whatever you're doing, things should come 1, 2, and 3. It's well researched, so it's something to have a close look at, or just remind yourself. Just remind yourself on your pad or on your mind map, or however you do it, and then you'll get into the habit of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, or just watch the politicians that are really good at it, and they'll be doing it all the time. Okay, they're scripted, I know, and they're probably scripted by Dominic Cummings or whoever's writing all the scripts behind the scenes, but they understand the power of three, and it's good for us to look at it and learn from it. From John Reed, I see, John, you've said you definitely recommend using a separate keyboard, mouse, and larger screen. John, you're I'm just trying to find.
Yeah, I think lifting the laptop up helps a bit, but you've really got to have a separate keyboard if you're going to do that. But yeah, I'm used to working with two large screens all the time, so I do quite a lot of spreadsheet work and computer-aided design and things like that. So I find the laptop screen pretty difficult. So I'm going to use the laptop for occasional day at a time or 2 days at a time working, but for full time, I think that'd be pretty straining on the shoulders.
John, you're an architect, aren't you? Or you
I'm an engineer, actually, civil structural engineer, but yeah, work with architects.
Oh, okay. So you need big drawings on the screen as well, which must be a huge advantage as well, and not so tiring, I guess, either.
Yeah, it makes the separate screens tend to be brighter as well. That's the other thing. But not everybody's got a spare screen, so we spent a lot of time in the last 2 weeks trying to find extra screens for people. We've got a lot of screens that are fixed arms on desks, so we've had to procure extra screens for quite a lot of our staff to improve their working arrangements at home. And some of them are using TVs and things like that as a second screen. Are
you working at home at the moment, or have you got to go in?
Yeah, I'm at home at the moment, yeah.
Fitzroy Street's closed, is it, in London?
We closed all of our offices a week on Friday ago to most staff. And then this time last week, when the announcement from Boris confirmed we shouldn't really be travelling at all, the remaining 20% of staff who were still working in the office all demobbed to home. So we were all working from home by about Tuesday, Wednesday last week. And that's true for about 50% of our offices worldwide as well.
It must be quite difficult doing your jobs without your big screens and big laptops and everything else.
Yeah, it's quite challenging for a few people. Yeah, it's particularly for the technicians, but we're making it work.
You probably can't tell us this, but have you been working on the Excel sensor on the hospital and things like that? They bring people in on that.
Arup are doing some healthcare things around some of this extra capacity in healthcare. Yeah, not that specific one. I think it's I think it's Building Design Partnership, BDP, are doing it for Excel.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing how they dropped everything and absolutely picked that up in that time. Okay, guys, I'm going to go back to the slides now. I'm talking you.
Derek.
Sorry, Paul.
Can I just add something?
Yes, please.
On the positive side, I had a meeting this morning. One of the people said, "I'm finding this fantastic." And we asked why. He said, "Well, I don't have an hour's commute to work every day. I don't have to go and visit clients in Aberdeen and stay in a crappy travel lodge. I can, at lunchtime, I can go out for a run and get 4 miles in and enjoy the countryside." It's not all bad. He didn't have any difficulties with children. His children are much older, but there are some positives for some people coming out.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And actually, we need to look at the positives. There's a huge. Graham Jones calls this the new normal. And I think it's going to be the new normal. In fact, Paul has been helping me with the technical bits and pieces on Zoom, and we were talking about it. And it's going to be difficult to get away from some of this working at home, isn't it? Because people aren't going to want to commute an hour and a half. And also, how long is it going to take to get rid of this coronavirus in the system before we're all immune to it? That's going to be a huge amount of time. And I guess as a football fan, the Premier League saying it's going to start on the 1st of May just makes it sound absolutely ridiculous. And to get any cricket in or anything this summer, I just can't see it myself. But there we are. We're nearly towards the end of the official part of this. How many people had difficulty with the left and right brain question? I can't see the results at the moment, so you've probably got the same problem as me. It's just so easy to say yellow, blue, orange, and black. And the trick is when we get into left brain mode, overload, too many things to do, etc., take a break and let the right brain click in. And that's why people like Edison and Einstein found their greatest ideas when they stopped work, or they were walking on the hills, or out with a dog, or whatever it was. I'll do some more on left and right brain on one of the further sessions. Have I got everybody on unmute there? I'll mute all. That should take care of that, guys. That should take care of that for a minute. So the last thing I wanted to say was on my tips before I throw it open for questions is the what, why, how. I'm a great believer in what, why, how. I'm a great believer the more work I've done, the more training I've done, the more I've helped people, the more I realise that actually most things we do have to be simplified. The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, keep it short and simple, whatever it is. And when I'm coaching people or working with people, I say to them, what is it you want to achieve? Now, often that blows their mind. They can't work it out. What do you want to achieve from the negotiation? What do you want to achieve from the presentation? What do you want to achieve this week? What do you want to achieve this month? What do you want to achieve this year? What do you want to achieve with your life, which is a good head-banging one as well. And then you come up with the why question. Why on a scale of 0 to 10 is it important? And if the answer's 7 or 8, they probably won't do it. And if it's a 10, they probably will. And if it's a 7, what would it take to be an 8? Or what would it be to be a 9? So that is a great question to ask people as you do that. And then you can work out the how. So I was sitting down with thinking about whether I was going to put these sessions on last week, and then Paul and David helped me with some practice, and Tony, and then I said, so what is it we're going to achieve? Why can we do it, and how? And I thought, well, if I get one person on, that's great. We got 16 today, I think. I'm just going to have a quick look at that. We got 16 participants, which is fabulous. And if you can pass some of this on, some of what we've been talking about, you will know. But as we know, most people know what to do and then don't do what they know. And what frightens me sometimes is when I do a session for 25 accountants in the National Health, and I see my friend Duncan Brody's on there as well. He works in the National Health Service as well. You talk to people about some of these management skills that the older ones of us learned 20 or 30 years ago on a leadership course, on a management course, on a supervisory course, and no one teaches them. No one teaches them. No one spends very much money on developing their own people. People are expected to develop themselves, as happens in the US, but not happens so much in other English-speaking countries. So they're the questions, really. What is it you want to achieve? How are you going to, what is it you want to achieve on a scale of 0 to 10, why, and how? So I'm just going to close these slides down and come back to you. Just so I should be on the full screen now, am I? Someone give me the thumbs up if I am. That would be really helpful. Good, because I got a bit confused with the technology there. My audio video man who's looking at you got a little bit confused. Guys, it's 29 minutes past 5. I want to tell you about the session on Wednesday with Gabrielle Gachet, who's a friend of mine. In fact, she taught me 10 years ago a lot of things about neurolinguistic programming. I was on her course with on a course with her and Michael Breen, and we got into the real psychology. NLP stands for neuro, the way the brain works. Linguistic, from the language we use, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to other people, using positive language, and programming, doing something a number of times, which actually increases the bandwidth of the neurons in your brain. So I'm going to interview her for 15, maybe 20 minutes and share some of the secrets that she's learned from traveling all over the world with looking and studying at some very exciting very knowledgeable people on the world of positive psychology, which then of course goes on to sports psychology. And I'm reading a fantastic book at the moment, which is about Pep Guardiola, written by a sports psychologist, and studying the methods of Guardiola, who's probably the best sports coach of his generation. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me, and let's throw it open for some questions.